Hey everybody, Chris Tyner here, the Dreamslayer himself, bringing you a behind-the-scenes preview episode of our upcoming Marvel Superheroes RPG campaign entitled Marvel Galaxies. This episode features the majority of our players for the upcoming game as we create their characters in Foundry VTT. I can't really give too much info on the coming campaign without spoiling some major secrets, and believe me, the players have no idea what they're in for. But here's what I can tell you. The player characters are all descendants of an elderly father figure known only as the Blindfather, or Pops as the family calls him. They live on a solitary world called New Haven, which in the grand scheme of things seems like a young colony planet with multiple alien races that have all come together to call it home. The Blindfather is likely in the early part of his second century, possibly 105 to 115 years old, and he's still pretty spry for an old guy. He's had 2 wives, each of which bore at least 1 child. He lives on a farm with the descendants of his children and is a leader of his community, a job which he shares with a council of elders. For the most part, the Blindfather's family lives a simple life. But due to their heritage and interspecies relationships, each of them bear a unique set of powers, and the Blindfather seems to be a bit of a doomsday prepper. But in all of the years of the family's existence, the training they have experienced under the Blindfather's tutelage, they have never really had a chance to put that training to use. All of that is about to change. So, in this introductory session, we begin to see the formation of this tight family unit as the world as they know it is about to be upended and adventure looms on the horizon. Marvel Galaxies will officially begin this March, so be sure to like and subscribe to Dreamslayer Studios to be notified of our videos as soon as they arrive on YouTube and your favorite podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, and if you like what you see, be sure to support us on Patreon. We have lots of perks for our members that you can take advantage of. Alright, let's begin tonight's introductory session of Marvel Galaxies. Good to see all your faces, first off. And thanks for jumping on board with this. I started working on this, I don't know how long ago, a couple of months ago, and I have so much shit planned for this. It's not even funny. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm jamming into this, but it's going to start like super small and then explode, and you guys are going to be cast into I don't even want to tell you what it is that you're going to be thrown into. You're just going to basically get the backstory of what you've done up until this point, and then chaos is just going to break loose, and then you guys are going to have to figure out what happens next. But right now, what I need to do is kind of shore everything up, both on just getting the characters drawn up and get a little bit of an idea of who they are and what their relationships are to the other characters that we have, the player characters here in the game. I think I mentioned already to everybody that you guys are members of a fairly tight-knit kind of family unit that runs basically I think 5 generations, either 4 or 5 generations. You have the Blindfather, who is the patriarch of the family, the eldest, and then a first generation, which would be his children, and then a second generation, which would be his grandchildren, which would probably be in their like 30s to 40s, probably. And then great-grandchildren, the 3rd generation, which would be in their teens to 20s. And some of you guys have already kind of pinpointed where in that line that you guys want to be. Andy, who's not here tonight, is actually going to be he's close to the family. He lives on the family's farm. But he's kind of like the ranch hand, the guy that, goes around and fixes stuff for the family, and he's just kind of been the Blindfather's right-hand man for a long time. And for those of you that are older, you remember him being there when you were children. So he's been around for a long time. And you've never really seen underneath the mask that he wears. He looks kind of like a robot, but you know that he's not. But kind of like the Mandalorian, he never takes the mask off in front of anybody. There may be an exception to that, and I'm going to have to talk to Andy just a little bit more on that, just to see what he thinks, whether or not he might have revealed himself to someone. But that'll be probably for session 1 once we get started. Christy, you are one of the firstborn, the first first
Go on,
generation.
say it. I'm the oldest.
And I went through and kind of plugged in all of the powers that you and I had kind of discussed and added one in there for you, which I don't know if you've looked at your character sheet just yet,
Not yet.
but based on some of the powers that you already have in the background that you and I have kind of discussed. And we're going to talk powers. So, and you guys are family members, so it's fine that you all kind of know basically what you're capable of. And Mike, this is going to probably take away one of your powers, just so you know,
That's all right.
because Dana took one of them already, and Christia had already taken one of the other ones that you mentioned earlier today.
That's okay.
Cosmic awareness, of course, because somebody has to have cosmic awareness, and Christy, I think, really liked cosmic awareness when she got it in the last game, and we have to rub it in Kurt's face even though he's not here. uh, so with your cosmic awareness coupled with the precognition power, I was trying to figure out a way to make that work. Now, number one, we're going to be playing cosmic awareness way more intensely with your character. And it is a power, it is something that you can use to your advantage, but more often than not, it's going to be something that's going to stand in your way and is going to be a problem for you. Because of the overload of information that will always be going through you. In the beginning, it's not going to be so bad. But I think after the initial shock of what happens in our first adventure, things are going to open up for you, and it's going to be very difficult for you to control it. And there are very specific rules in this that we really didn't touch on too much with Poet. And so when you get a chance, as we're going through this tonight, kind of take a look at that. And then if you have any questions about that, let me know. But I created a power for you because I wanted to figure out a way that we could make the cosmic awareness and the precognition actually work as a mechanic in the game that was a little bit more dynamic. And it wasn't just always me feeding you information when I feel like it or when you happen to roll for it. And I think this power called Rewind, I think, is going to be an interesting twist on how to really play with those two powers together. And as luck would have it, I think there's a movie that is getting ready to come out that somebody actually has this power now, but I beat them to it because I didn't see the preview until a couple of days ago. Now I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie was, but the power is essentially like a rewind. Oh, it's the new Spider-Man movie that's coming out, Madam Web. So essentially, you see an event that happens in the very near future. You know that something's going to happen, and we as the characters play it out. But then if you don't like the way that it ended out, or it's not the way that you had seen that it might end up, you basically get to roll Rewind, and it forces a re-roll of the last action that was rolled up until potentially 3 actions ago if you get like a red result on it. So we just have to back up a couple of steps and then re-roll everything. So I think that's going to be kind of a cool
That is cool.
aspect to the character. So essentially, what is really actually happening is you're seeing the possible future, and it doesn't play out the way that you want. So what is actually happening is happening in the future. Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
you kind of rewind it and say, if I just tweak this one little thing, or if she tweaks this one little thing, then we can make this happen the way that we want it to happen. Cool.
Very cool.
All right. So I'll give you a little bit of time to kind of look over your character sheet. For Griffin, Fernando's character,
Yeah.
I think I dumped everything in there that we talked about. If
Yep.
I missed something, let me know, but I think I've got everything there. I did not put in any talents yet because I wasn't really sure exactly what we really needed to look at there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure yet either. I was hoping that we would cover it here, but
And-
or we can cover it offline.
Yeah, and then of course your basic phase rip, your abilities. I haven't messed with that at all. That's something that we'll need to figure out tonight as well. And I think Christy, I don't think I did that for you either, did I? Why can't I open your? Yeah, I didn't do that for you either. So that's definitely something we need to focus on there. Mark, as I said, I didn't really get all that in there for you at all. And I see what you're putting in. I think that's great.
Mhm.
And then if you want me to, I can drop in the macros there for you. I think just putting the ranks in for now would be fine.
Sure. Yeah, I was a little unclear how that works.
Yeah.
with the macros.
It's a little tedious, but and then what I'll probably have to do, I can't do it for you now because if I do it, then you won't be able to actually click on the macros in the character sheet and actually use them. So I have to do it when we're done and then go sign in as you to be able to drop them in. So, but if you want to just put the rank numbers in there for now, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Sounds good.
So Tony and Mike, we really need to discuss kind of who these guys are and come up with names, and you need to kind of let me know what the look needs to be and so forth. Family dynamic, the way that I see it right now, and some of us have kind of talked about this a little bit. Griffin is probably going to be Jace's father.
Okay.
Okay.
And who plays Griffin?
That's Fernando.
Fernando. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Daddy.
How you doing, son?
Usaria is the spinster aunt, so she doesn't have any children. And Mike, we haven't really discussed as far. I think we do. You had said that you were going to maybe try to target the older generation as well, so you would be Usaria's brother.
Okay.
Or potentially. Yeah, no, I think with the powers that you were talking about maybe getting, I think he definitely needs to be the direct progeny of the Blindfather. That'll play better. So your wife would have been someone from outside the bloodline and would have passed some time ago. So you would probably be the father of either Tony's character or Fernando's character.
Okay.
Beat
there-
Fernando, so we have a 3-generation.
Yeah. It'll make the barbecues in the game much more
Yeah.
meaningful.
I love it.
All right, so Mike, you and I kind of talked a little bit about the characters. So if you want to take a little bit of time and maybe kind of look through the Ultimate Powers book, if you want to start typing stuff in, if you go into your character sheet by clicking on your token, it'll pull your character sheet up, and then on the page itself underneath attributes, there should be like a little dialog box that pops up like a little pen and paper. If you click on that, then that'll open up the editing screen where you can actually start typing stuff in.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And my general rule as far as just the character creation for these guys, I would prefer that we not have anything over amazing to start out.
Okay. So phase rip or powers or anything.
Right.
All right.
All right.
And then Tony,
Yep.
we haven't had a chance to really talk just yet about concept or anything. So did you kind of have something in mind?
I thought I was playing older, but I'm down with whatever.
And he would be probably in his like 40s to 50s
Yeah,
potentially.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Nothing huge. I mean, I'm always more of a mental power or whatever power than a physical guy. Other than that, I'm down for whatever.
Okay. But if you want to take a look then too at the Ultimate Powers book, kind of do a scan
Taking a
and
peek at her right now.
see what strikes your fancy, then we can figure that out. And in the meantime, then if anybody is working on stuff or sees stuff that you want to ask some questions or whatever, I can address those while everybody else is looking.
Talents.
Yeah.
Donde?
That is going to be in the player's guide. So if you open up that in the journals, this one is not hyperlinked. So
Sadface.
talents are going to be, it's taking a moment to load here. On page, it says 90 in the actual book, but in the PDF, it's page 92.
Just like, I'm like, I want all the talents, or I can have one talent. Like, what am I looking at here?
Well, I think the great thing about Marvel is we can have varying levels of power ranges and so forth. I mean, obviously we can't have all of the talents, but think about what makes Griffin tick, and maybe some experiences that he may have had on this world of New Haven, knowing that it's a very small population. The kind of countryside, the little village that they live in maybe has about 800 people tops.
Some lawyer.
And the world itself is pretty sparsely populated with a few other colonies, essentially, kind of scattered about, that they're all within a couple of days travel, and the communities all cooperate with one another, but all in all there's maybe 10,000 people here on this planet.
Biodiversity is there's plants.
Yep. Yeah. And it's not like plants that we would be familiar with here. It's definitely an alien planet for sure.
Right. But it's lush, rich.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. And I would say probably the area that you guys live in is probably, as far as like temperature and weather, is probably very similar to what we have here in Evansville, Indiana. Probably it's humid during the summer, and it can get pretty icy cold during the winter.
And those first numbers on our character sheet, it's health, right? And then the other one, is that karma?
Yeah, the other one is karma. I think I don't know if it did this for everybody just yet, but I will be starting you off with 150 karma points. But if you're looking at the character sheet, on the right side, there's two sets of numbers that's either 150 or it's a 5. And on the right-hand side would be your starting karma. And then on the left-hand side, you can put 150 in there because that'll be your starting that you can actually spend. So on the left-hand side, that's what you spend each game. On the right-hand side, that's your advancement fund.
The
So
advancement fund should be 0, and the left-hand side should be 150.
I would probably put your starting karma, like your RIP, the total. Go ahead and put that in the right-hand karma and use that as the beginning of your bank for the advancement fund. And then I'm going to gift everybody 150 karma points for the first session so that everybody kind of is on an even keel once we get started.
Got it.
How's initiative calculated?
It is based off of your intuition, and with your intuition, depending on, and you've got, let's see, martial arts.
I don't know if any of them say anything about it.
Yeah, nothing for the initiative. So you get a +1 on your initiative. So if you just put a +1 there.
Okay.
And Marks, we did talk about, like a starting point for your character, and then as we get into the game, there may be some changes. If you want to put those in the character sheet, you're welcome to do that. We'll just hold on to them until it's time to move forward with that. So
Okay, I can note it in there. Unless you want to, it's just a way to clone it and have it as a backup.
That's up to you. I mean, I can do that if you want to. I can copy what we have here and then open up another one for you.
Let's do that. Just
Okay.
because.
Yeah, sure. Give me just 1 second. Christy,
Yes.
let's talk about your basic skills. Your attributes, I should say. Your fighting, agility, strength, endurance, reason, intuition, psyche.
Okay.
And I'm going to probably start with the mental stuff first because she's probably going to be stronger in that area. Area. Where am I from?
Mean.
I would say your intuition is probably going to be your highest out of those three because of your cosmic awareness and precog abilities. And probably psyche would be a very close second, and then reason probably would be the lowest of the three. My suggestion, because of where your power ranks are, is I would probably put your intuition at amazing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, that's going to give you a +4 to start in initiative. And then Christy, I think probably the other stuff then we need to kind of figure out is physically, what are her strengths? And, does she have some combat expertise? Is she mostly support for the others? Maybe what other training potentially would she have had? The Blindfather certainly has been working with the family for years, and kind of he's a doomsday prepper essentially, So he spends a little bit of time every day working with individuals in the family and just kind of preparing them for something, and he's never been very clear as to what that is. But you look around and the older members of the community, I think, too, are similar in some ways to him, but he's probably the more fanatical about it. The other members of the elders that have like the kind of secret society that's not so secret, but kind of the leaders of the communities are all very much kind of like the Blindfather in many ways. And everybody knows that there's secrets that they are probably keeping, but they also know better than to press too hard for whatever answers they happen to, that there might be. There are a few members of the elders that have, in the time that especially like the older members of the family can recall, a few of the original elders have passed, and they have passed that legacy on down to their immediate progeny. So you two, Mike and Christy, would probably have known members of the elders that have basically taken over the position of their parent or parents that were on the board, and they changed once they became members of the elders. So there's a definite demeanor shift. They're still the same person, but they're more guarded and more cautious, and very quickly become a little bit more fanatical.
So early on, I had, without too much thinking about it, declared that I wanted her to be a tinkerer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Someone who could build stuff. And that sort of sounds to me like it may come along with many of her skills from being so close to her father, the Blindfather.
Mm-hmm.
When we would go into prepping drills or something like that, I would have been instructed to be a part of the getting ready, to grab the hammer and nails and board up the windows, or to get the radios ready and hook up that wiring. So like a general handiness and strength.
Yeah, and with
beyond
that,
what I would look like.
with your hyper invention power that you've got, that basically kind of takes the place of reason for you. So theoretically, your reason could be lower than your hyper invention, and potentially, really, probably should be. So even a rank of good or excellent for your reason would probably be completely acceptable. That hyper invention is your ability to really be able to create and develop technological devices. Now, I think we also mentioned that Andy's character, Larry, the simplest name that he could come up with, he also has hyper invention as well, but he is illiterate. And I would say that you probably picked up maybe more from Larry and his inventing abilities, because you had to read to him all the time. Like if he was trying to learn new technology, he had no means of being able to do that himself. He couldn't read it. So he had you read to him. And just probably by that connection, you probably became closer with Larry, and learned from him and maybe taught him a thing or two, in the process. So Larry has another power that is going to come in really handy for both you and him and your hyper invention abilities. And that is molding, which he can basically mold any solid inorganic material into any desired shape that he wants. The problem with this is he gives up a little bit of his health for every pound of matter that he creates. So it weakens him every time that he uses that to create new material. So if you guys are building something rather large, it can take a lot out of him. And then Mark's, your character with the armor and stuff that you've got,
Mm-hmm.
would have been created probably by Larry, and maybe with some assistance from Usaria as well.
All right, cool. Do you have a shop? Do things like it's crazy is
Yeah,
tinkering?
yeah, he's probably got a shack there somewhere on the farm that he keeps all of his junk in, and it probably does. It probably looks like a huge junkyard around the shack. You just got random shit all over the place.
Talents.
Yeah,
3.
3. What are they?
Trance.
Trance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Weapons specialist, specific to the flail spear.
Sure.
Martial arts D, meditative.
Got it. So what does trance do?
Trance. Let me read. Where am I? Where did that go? There I am. A character may place himself into a trance. While in a trance, the character slows his body functions to such a level that he may be assumed to be deceased. Intuition feat for the character checking. A character in a trance reduces needs for food and water to a minimal level and may regain endurance ranks at 1 rank per day.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever had anybody with that power or with that ability. That's cool. And that plays very well with your character.
Yep. I don't know what situation may come up where I may use it, but it's there.
I think I want to dive a little bit more into his energy source. And looking at how the power actually works, it says that you draw your powers from a special source that provides you with all the energy that you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can maintain your link with the source, you can continue to use the powers.
Mm-hmm.
If the link is severed or the source destroyed, you're left with a finite supply of energy left. The amount of raw power left is the number of points, yada yada. Each time you use the power, you decrease the reservoir by that power's rank number. Okay, but that's if you're not actually connected to it.
Correct.
How do we recharge it?
I would be connected to it, wouldn't I? So I wouldn't be decreasing its
No.
reservoir.
Well, yeah, okay. So as long as you have it, you don't have to continue to recharge it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did we decide what that power source actually is?
I mean, we came up with several things, but the flail spear itself has a crystal in it.
Uh-huh.
And we had kind of talked about the crystal itself potentially being that power source.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fine.
But is there an origin to that?
We discussed origins and came up with several potential theories. One of them was that it was something that was passed down in the family. The other route was that this is something that could be found again should I lose this particular one. It's something that's particularly rare, but if for whatever reason I were to lose it, it's something that I might be able to find again somewhere. But I think the one we mostly landed on is something that was kept in the family and was given to me as something like a don't lose this.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw something out there.
Yeah.
And this is for you and Marks. And I don't think that the characters would need to know this, and I think we can play it that through the role play maybe we may discover this. But what do you think about that crystal or that gem or whatever it is? What if that was the reason for Jace's disability. And you guys just don't know it. That his proximity to it, like for you, it works to give you power. But for Jace, it has debilitated him. and you've never been able to figure out, basically he was essentially born with this.
Right.
And it's something that it has just been accepted by the family that we need to protect him. He's weak. We need to build this armor for him so that he can breathe, and so on and so forth. But you've never really made the connection that it's whatever that is causing that issue.
Oh, yeah, I'd be fine with that. I mean, crazier stories have been told.
Works for me.
And Mark's, with what I know about your character, I think that may come into play with his development as we move forward. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Because I think narratively that would be a really interesting way to see how that actually affects him.
Yeah, I like it.
I guess let me see if this. Let me just try and poke a hole in this. Let's say that Jace wanted to go to Cancun, right? And like I'm just like, no, I'm gonna stay home, right? Like, would Jace suddenly be like super healthy and strong in Cancun, and like I'm just chilling wherever I'm back at the farm? You see what I'm saying? Like, does distance from the crystal suddenly like start to reverse the effects?
I would say for Jace, I don't think so, because I think he would probably end up figuring that out.
Right.
And I mean, he's pretty young. How old is he? 15?
Exactly, but yeah, he's a teenager.
Okay. So he's fairly young, and he probably would not have been able to have gone off by himself up until this point. But even if he was able to get away for a long enough time, I think that just the fact that he's been around it for as long as he has been, it would take, if it happened at all, it would take a long time for him to get over
the exposure.
The exposure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's almost like a radiation kind of thing, almost, and he might have to have some sort of treatment or something like that. But as long as he's near it, he's not gonna get better.
Is he gonna have father issues after he finds out? It's all your fault.
So this would also mean that even if I lost it, like we wouldn't even know, right? Like we wouldn't even be able to tell a difference, right? Like if it was destroyed or I lost it or something like that, like we wouldn't be, like
definitely not immediately. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I'm good with this.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, those are the three. As far as
yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's got a real monkish vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he maybe has some sort of kind of monkish background? Is there a religion or anything or some sort of outside training that you got outside of the Blindfather?
I don't think it would be religion, but I will have to think about like why he is the way that he is. I mean, I think it's just probably an obsession with death, because I was like thinking, I've been trying to think about this, right? And I think that this is somebody that is incredibly intimate with death, very interested in death, partially because it is very hard for this dude to die.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know that it would necessarily be a religion. It would just be I don't know what the right way to say this is. So give me a second. I'm going to formulate my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in Harry Potter, you got the Deathly Hallows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy with the cape is the one who evades death for all these years until he, natural age eventually catches up, and then he meets death as a friend. A similar type of vibe, right? This is a guy who can get so close to dead, but not dead, to the point where he is essentially, with an invisibility cloak, escaping death forever. And that would warp your entire perception of reality.
As long as he doesn't try to marry death like Thanos in the comics.
So I think that would just naturally tend to change the way that you think about things, the way that you like emotionally react to things. It's like, nothing's gonna kill me. It's gonna be fine, right? Like, I'll figure it out. It's not gonna kill me. I'll figure it out. Like, I think it probably is gonna be born more from something like that than a religion. I don't know how openly I'm supposed to just be like, can't fucking die, like. I mean, we're family, so you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
already...
I think they would certainly know that, and you guys have certainly suffered loss in the family, mostly probably through natural causes. I don't know that necessarily anybody would have passed a violent death, because this community of 10,000 people, planet-wide, or at least in your region that you know of, live a fairly peaceful existence. I mean, just within any community, of course, there's going to be, certain, acts of violence and stuff that will happen. But for the most part, everybody pretty much gets along. And there's been no real outside influence on, the communities. Occasionally someone new will come in. But there, everybody's very accepting, I think, of one another. So I think the death that surrounds you is just the tragedy of life. People get sick, people get old, and they die. And I think perhaps that might just be the thing with him, that he's like, but why? If I can't, why does everybody else die?
You remember in Lord of the Rings, there's a moment when, I can't remember the exact scene, but like everybody else is experiencing loss. I don't know if it was when Boromir dies or something along those lines, but Legolas is like almost looking on with curiosity more so than grief. And it's that same kind of vibe, right? It's like this is a dude that just like doesn't understand it, wants to understand it, but it's more curious than anything else.
Does he seem like he has a death wish to everybody around him?
I think you certainly can expect him to be dropping comments related to death on a regular basis. Almost like in a philosophical way. Like, I heard a great author, or like, oh yeah, I've heard this great saying about, like, death is inevitable, or something along those lines. I'm gonna come ready with basically a giant book of like quotes related to death and just sprinkle them through every session.
Well, this guy's like the life of the party.
Yeah.
Just waiting for my opportunity.
And then, so if you want to, then Fern, go ahead and start kind of filling in the attributes.
The phaser rep. Sure.
And then I can take a look at that. Christy, do you need some help with that?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we said for intuition, we want to go probably amazing on that. So I think that makes the most sense.
Are you going to type it in, or should I be?
I'm typing it in there for you. Do you see it there now?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Psyche, I think mostly because I want to torture you. I don't want that to be as high as the intuition.
Mhm.
Because it's your psyche that you're going to have to roll every time the cosmic awareness gets to be too much for you.
Right. I agree. Then it should not be that high.
Yeah. And I mean, I think incredible certainly high, but it's not going to be a huge buffer for you, when that time comes. Um, and I've also kind of put a caveat in several of your things, and I'll have to kind of go through this and see exactly where, but there are several of these that you cannot spend karma on, just because of the nature of how these things affect you.
Okay.
Reason, I think my suggestion would be is we go at least one level lower than your hyper invention, so that would be excellent on that. And then the rest of this, the phase, the fighting agility, the strength, and the endurance, really kind of come down to, how is she in when faced with danger? Is she one that really meets it head on? Does she stay in the background? How do you see her there on the battlefield?
Very much staying in the background.
Okay.
Almost against her will.
How so there?
By virtue of her heritage, there will be some innate thing holding her back from taking action.
Yeah, okay.
As much as it makes sense intellectually to jump into the fray, to defend or take action of some sort, it would be a struggle to do that.
Okay.
And I'm describing it in terms that sound more like psyche than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like she's physically adept. She'd be adequate to, pick up a hammer or something.
Yeah. So knowing what her heritage is, not on the Blindfather side, but on the mother's side, I would say that she probably would have a fairly high endurance because of that. So that's going to be your highest. And I think, truthfully, we've got to make that as high as we can. So I think amazing is probably where we need to start with that. And then fighting agility and strength would be next. Now, when I was drawing this character, just visually, I was really focused on that belt. I don't know if you could tell that. And she's got these two things on the front of her belt. I don't know what those are. I just thought they kind of looked cool. And I found that in a Star Wars thing. And I think in the Star Wars thing, those are actually two like lightsabers. But I'm wondering if that could potentially be maybe some sort of weapon that she would have, and potentially like more of a, in this case, more of a distance type weapon.
Okay.
Since she's going to be probably staying towards the back of the group, we probably don't want her to have swords or axes or what have you. It may need to be something that she can throw or send in whatever direction that she wants it to.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I'm wondering if it might not be some sort of almost like boomerang type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And with your hyper invention, it could be something even, technological that you have created. So instead of it being more of a mundane boomerang type thing, maybe it's actually powered and it has, some sort of ability that allows it to come back to you or what have you. So think about that. But if that's the case, then we probably need to look at a fairly high agility for the character as well. Now, she is of at least a partial alien origin. Usually, your top end of human ability is going to be excellent. But since she has a little bit of an alien background, she could probably bump that up to like a remarkable for the agility.
Real quick, you said you wanted average to be excellent.
That would be kind of the top range of the human ability. I don't know if I said an average, but yeah, I mean that's probably for these characters that would probably be an average ability. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to say like. What I mean to say is like you basically like add everything up, right, and then divide it by the number that we're doing. That it would like you basically your average would be excellent, not that necessarily everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Basically, but I'm comfortable with more than that. So I think for Usaria, in that respect, then I think her fighting and her strength are going to be her lowest attributes probably, because she doesn't get into the heat of battle. But she certainly would have had some training. So I would probably put fighting at good and probably strength maybe as low as typical, which is kind of your normal human ability for most people that are not like Olympic level athletes or what have you. Do you feel like she exercises a lot?
No, just an average amount.
Yeah, so typical I think would probably be good for that.
And what did you say endurance was going to be?
It should be on there now. I saved it for you.
Ah, there it is. Thanks.
I don't think it appears while I'm typing, so I have to actually save it for you to be able to see it. I gotta change your initiative there, so that should be a +4. All right, so there's that. So the other thing then, Christy, have you found the player's guide?
Yes.
Okay. Take a look at the talents and let me know kind of what you're thinking there. Okay. I'll give you a few minutes. I'll check in with the boys here. Mike?
Yeah.
Have you made some headway?
Yeah, I've been typing stuff into the character sheet.
All right.
So you can see that. I assume you can.
Okay, so plasma generation, is that coming from the eye?
Yeah.
Okay. Energy doppelganger, okay. That's interesting. I like that.
Well, I thought it'd be, thinking of the plasma generation or the, energy generation of some kind from the eye, but in sort of a cyclopsy way, where the energy is there and just comes out. And so he's got some kind of like plasma vibe going.
Yeah. You know what would be cool with that? And I just had this idea because with that kind of cyclopsy thing where he's shooting stuff out of his eye.
Yeah.
Usually with the energy doppelganger, it is I'm creating a doppelganger here next to me. Boom,
Right.
zoot, there he is.
Mhm.
What if with the plasma generation, he looks at a spot, shoots it, and then his doppelganger appears where he's aiming.
Like almost like a projected thing,
Yeah.
rather than like right next to you.
Yeah. So that would give you some range where the doppelganger could come in from behind an enemy or something like that.
Right. And would that be in addition to just regular generation, like a blast or a?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, but it's basically based off of the fact that you can shoot these energy beams, and then if you decide to, well, I'm going to shoot an energy beam over there and then create a doppelganger, boom, that just appears.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was reading that power, it gave some options. If it's just like a puppet that you can just control and just like an extension of yourself or an extension of the power, that's one thing. But I think it's also, I like the idea of it having its own intelligence.
Yeah.
I think what the Ultimate Powers book said was intelligent but obedient. So like it could make some decisions of its own, maybe, or have some agency.
Yeah.
I think that idea is interesting.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Environmental awareness. Tell me again how that one works. It's been a while since I've looked at that.
It's from what it says, it's just kind of an automatic general awareness of surroundings, like weather, temperature, life forms, literally just a heightened awareness of your surroundings.
Okay. But like if it's life forms, does it give him the ability to actually pinpoint where they are in space?
I think depending on level, I think level determines range, but it may also, it doesn't, the description is relatively short in the guide. So I don't know, I don't know how specific, or just there are living things here, or if he's already familiar with them, he might be able to recognize them. But if he's someplace unfamiliar, there's something alive within 50 yards,
Hero has an increased sensitivity to conditions in, disturbances in, and influences on the environment. Automatically maintains full knowledge of current conditions in his surroundings. Includes awareness, extends to such factors as weather, chemicals, movement, and life. The rank determines the range to which the awareness extends. Exceeding it requires a feat. Hero can gain +1 column shift by linking his health to the environment, and this symbiosis harm to the environment is reflected in the hero's physical welfare. Ooh.
Like that might be interesting for like his home planet. I like the idea of kind of a, not so far as like a warrior monk kind of thing, but like we kind of briefly mentioned today, kind of a Jedi kind of thing, like kind of hyper aware, a focused sort of morally, a feeling of moral superiority while also being a talented warrior.
Okay. I think the only caveat I think I would be putting on this, because it is vague, is the life detection. I think that he would get a sense of there are 6 living creatures in this area, but you can't necessarily pinpoint, and he's right there behind that tree. There's one behind that rock here and there. It's kind of like almost like a Highlander quickening kind of thing. Like, all right, I know that there's people here.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's like a, natural radar, but this place doesn't support life, or I detect a life presence here or something like that.
But then on the flip side of that, though, I may be backing up on this, because then it also says movement. So if that individual is moving,
then you would have to know where they were.
Then you would have to know where they are. And I'm okay with that. That's not a problem. But and that feeds into that whole Jedi kind of mindset there as well. So
yeah, tied into like whatever we're going to call the universal force in this.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm fine with that. That's good. The martial supremacy. I got to refresh my memory on that as well.
Yeah, I had never used or read that before, so that just seemed interesting. I'm not.
Increases the hero's already mastered martial arts talent in the game system to dramatically higher levels, allows them to perform actions that would otherwise be impossible, like splitting a battleship in 2 with a single karate chop.
That did sound attractive.
It is.
And if that
chooses.
would just be duplicated or be crazier than just having the talent or
Right.
having.
Yeah.
Again, I don't feel strongly about that.
Okay, so if you had martial arts E at the typical rank and martial arts supremacy, so it's based on your fighting. Okay. So, like, if you got fighting of, that didn't make sense. That's not how that works. They get some stuff wrong in here because this particular version of the Ultimate Powers book is one that somebody kind of adapted and modernized. So, technically, like, if you've got typical fighting and you got martial arts E, that basically bumps up your ability to good. So essentially, you're going to take your martial arts supremacy and then add your fighting rank. These combine to get an excellent rank. So whatever your fighting would be, you would add that to your martial arts supremacy to give you your rank for that particular martial art.
Gotcha. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, can be.
It's like a double power, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, if it makes more sense for that just to be a talent to get like a column shift on things.
No, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. Okay, yeah, so that's good. Dark lightsaber thingy.
Yeah, we can workshop the name of that thing.
Yeah. And the left eye, weapon specialist, martial arts D. And will that be the martial art supremacy then would be on the martial arts D, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think he probably also needs to have martial arts either A or B as well.
And is A the redirecting force kind of thing?
A is using the opponent's strength against him, yeah. And B is basically essentially just your short, quick bursts, like boxing, karate.
Right. I like the sort of more Aikido kind of route, like A,
Yeah. Yeah. So I would add that on there as well.
Okay. I just added it.
Okay. Amazing. Incredible.
And again, like I don't have a good sense for, phase rip levels just because, our typical Marvel characters are, I know, kind of out of whack power wise, or at least on the higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah, on the higher end now, yeah, for sure. I would probably take the agility down to remarkable, and then potentially add another talent that would essentially be like a marksman kind of talent.
Okay, like for use with the plasma generation?
Right. And then that would get you back up to the incredible rank whenever you shoot with the eyeball.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So is the talent called marksman? I think it is.
I don't know if that's actually in here or not, but you could put that down as the talent because I think it's got guns. Oh, it is marksmanship. Yeah. So marksmanship would be the talent. Yeah.
Okay.
And that may give you a +2 now that I'm thinking about it. Hold on. Marksman. So you get a +1 column shift with any distance weapon. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm liking that. Tony, what you got there, bud?
Thinking something along the lines of either reflection or energy sponge. Like,
Oh, you're cutting out on me.
a lot. Oh, sorry.
Nope, still nothing.
while that's going, just FYI, I did
Yep.
an initial pass on my phaser it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm back.
Okay, yeah,
okay, cool.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. So I heard energy sponge and I heard reflection. Oh no, you're going
Something along
again.
those lines.
Oh, now there you are. I got you. I got you.
This is a nightmare right now. I'll be hooked up to the other computer next time. This was a short-term thing. I like the idea that maybe I spent a little time off-world with Mom and kind of got the crap kicked out of me a lot.
Okay. Oh,
Because
I lost you again, bud.
no,
Fern, I was looking at yours.
Yep.
And I think that looks pretty good. His agility is pretty low. But I think I get where you're coming from on that. So yeah, I think that works. And it gives him room to grow for sure.
Yep. Cool. Ship it.
And Mike, while we're waiting for Tony to get back in, what do you think this guy looks like?
I don't know.
I think I'm back.
Today,
Hey.
like kind of, I don't know why, but just kind of like an old cable, but
Okay.
without all the silver stuff.
Uh-huh.
Got the silver vest and the, bandoleros and things. It's like
What manner of dress are we thinking?
some like, I don't know if we want to like keep aping Star Wars so much, but kind of Jedi-ish,
Mhm.
like a little bit of flowy stuff, but some armory weapony looking stuff too.
Okay.
White or kind of salt and pepper beard.
Uh-huh.
Bald is always beautiful, but he could have hair, I guess. If we want him to be haired, that's fine.
Give him a mohawk.
What'd you say about the hair?
I always prefer bald, but he could also have hair. That's
Yeah.
fine.
We got a bald crew. We might as well just embrace it,
Well, maybe that's we're all family. Maybe
It's
that's
a family trait.
genetic thing.
No, well, not you, motherfucker. I'm jealous of your hair still.
Lucky. I'm very lucky.
You are. Makes you look like 10 years younger. All right, let's see if we can get some words in this time. So, energy sponge, reflection.
Yeah, I like energy sponge. I like reflection. I like the idea of kind of being able to subtle tank,
Mm-hmm.
by taking damage up front, but not looking at all tanky and not being a tanky kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I like the thought that maybe I spent some time off world with Mom and got the snot beat out of me a lot, and that's where it comes from. If that's possible.
I will say, as far as being off-world,
Mhm.
not a possibility.
Okay. Well, then, never mind.
You guys have been completely haven-bound throughout your entire life. Space travel is actually not a thing on this planet.
Okay.
But that's not to say that perhaps, maybe, let me throw this out there. I did say that, for the most part, everybody gets along, but there probably has to be some sort of law there. And when things do get unruly, maybe Mom was part of the police force. Or vice versa. Maybe her old life was a little bit more on the opposite side, and you guys found yourselves getting into bar brawls every once in a while,
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's perfectly fine.
All right.
Let's see. So going through the line of who's, like Mike, we got to figure out whose daddy you are.
Did we not say that I am Fern's dad and Jace's grandfather?
Okay, so Fern's dad, Jace's grandfather. So Tony,
Or Griffin, rather. Sorry.
that would probably mean you would be the father or grandfather of Thalia, which would be Dana's character.
Okay.
So I guess it really kind of depends on whether you want to be the oldest generation or the mid generation.
I'm good with whatever makes your life easier. How about that?
I tell you, if we could do the mid generation,
Sure.
that would probably be good because I'd like to see the dynamic of that father-daughter kind of relationship between your character and Dana's.
Sure.
If you're cool with that.
Yeah. I can deal with that.
So your direct lineage to the Blindfather has been cut off. So both your father and mother would have passed.
Right.
So we have to figure out, was the mom direct lineage or was the dad direct lineage from the Blindfather?
I was kind of thinking mom was not part of the family, but
and I think that makes sense with what you just said, because she could be the kind of the outsider, and maybe she was the bad girl, when in her younger days, and coming into the family is kind of what brought her down to earth a little bit more, so to speak, and then that would make her probably the alien type species.
Right.
Have you thought at all about what type of alien inheritance you would have?
No, I have not. But I could.
And Mike, what about you?
I had not thought much about that.
So this would be the Blindfather's second wife, because Christy would be the progeny of the first wife. And if you guys go to like the Marvel wiki and just type in like alien races, that'll give you some stuff to draw from.
Gotcha.
Probably too much to draw from, but
is that the fandom?
Yeah, that's the best one. Yeah, fandom's probably the best. The actual Marvel wiki is a little bit more sporadic, and not as definitive, weirdly. But the fandom one is filled with incorrect information and terrible misspellings and grammar.
Well, it is a wiki, right?
Yeah.
I did want to validate for if you're cool with the phaser rib that I gave, then the starting bank for me would be 67
for the karma.
Yeah. If it's off of the rip, I'm assuming I'm using the initial rank value.
No, you're going to use the mid rank. So, like, excellent would be 20.
Okay. Excellent would be 20. Okay, got it.
Mike, did you come up with an idea?
I was kind of starting to cycle through the very long list of
There's a lot.
I came upon one, but I'm still in the A's, to be honest. So, the Aedeans, first appearing in Silver Surfer, possess telepathic powers. They can sense the presence of others within their planet's orbit. They are also empathic, so they can sense pain or emotions. They can also project their astral selves into orbit. Honestly, that seems like kind of a good fit, like, because a lot of the stuff that we've talked about are kind of versions of that, with the sensing the presence of others, that kind of ties into the environmental awareness,
Mm-hmm.
Being able to project their astral selves, kind of goes with the energy doppelganger
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Um,
How do you spell that?
Aedians.
Ooh, they're interesting looking fuckers, aren't they?
Thin humanoid bipeds with an elongated cranium and no noses.
Yeah.
Which I would, I'd prefer to look more human
Mm-hmm.
than that, but honestly, that kind of makes sense. But it makes me think that we maybe add empathy as a talent or as a power of some kind. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I would put that in as power. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Tony, did you come up with anything?
I am still looking.
Still in the A's, aren't you?
Yeah, I really. Let's see. Yeah, I'm still. It's killing me right now. There's so much stuff.
Oh yeah, that's no problem. Tell you, if you want to kind of take a little bit of time, look at it, and then maybe just shoot me a message like tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm going to be on the road tomorrow. I'm going to take Sullivan up to Riley, just a routine kind of check thing. And then when I get back, I think tomorrow night I was going to try to sit down and do some drawing, and we can kind of put the characters together. On that note, not knowing what his alien heritage happens to be, what do you want him to look like?
I think he's probably very tall and very thin.
Mm-hmm.
And so there may be some sort of avian alien to him too.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to figure out which. But something tall, something thin, something that really does not look like a tank at all.
Mm-hmm. And garb?
I'm of two minds. Either he dresses really nice because he's a bit of a fop, that's what upbeat, or he just tries to blend in. But I kind of like being the fop.
I like the fop. I'm already seeing him in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has long, luxurious hair, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's avian. Whatever the alien race is.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense actually, because Thalia would have to have some sort of like Shi'ar like in her, and that's an avian race.
Blindfather was kind of a freak, huh? Hey, girl.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, that gives me some stuff to work with. So, Mike, we've got a name for your character now, right? Lopes?
Lopes.
Lopes. Okay.
You couldn't figure out how to do the one with the long O.
Oh, all right. What is that? The one with the slash over it, or the?
I think that's the straight line over the top.
Okay, straight line over the top. All right, I'll have to figure out how to do that.
Or we could just spell it differently. It doesn't matter.
We'll just put an E in there.
Yeah, it's more about the pronunciation.
But that's Lopez.
You can put it before the P, I guess.
And then Tony, we got to come up with a name for your fella.
Flag.
Flag.
Flag. With
Flag. KLAG or two G's?
One G. That's why I got beat up all the time.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, well, that gives me some stuff to work with. Now, I don't want to keep you all too late, but anybody else have any questions about the game, about the family, about the world, anything like that I can address before we...
what's the basic origin of our colony that we know of, that we were taught?
The original settlers had come to this planet from all different areas of the galaxy, and this seemed to be basically a gathering point for individuals who were seeking a new life, and a life free of persecution, and creating a safe community in a nutshell. And it's a very young colony in the whole grand scheme of things.
Was the Blindfather part of that original settlement, or has it been longer than that?
I think that you can logically assume that if it hasn't been spoken. Yeah. And the rest of the Council of Elders, the ones that are still alive, would have been part of that original colonization. Yeah.
And do we as a culture have any other purpose or drive other than just like living and supporting ourselves? Do we have, is there like industry? Is there, outside commerce of any kind?
I would say that there's no outside commerce other than trade between the communities themselves. And
on the planet, like
on the planet, right? And the Blindfather's family is primarily focused on agriculture and livestock.
Wow, we all different from each other.
But there is trade. There are other types of trade. And there's art, and there's music, and there's some beginnings of like mechanics and stuff like that. So there are essentially like Star Warsy type, like maybe land speeders and stuff like that are on the planet. So there is a heightened level of industry in some respects, but it's also kind of archaic in others. And the fact that there is no like interstellar travel is kind of, it's understandable in a sense because there's not that many people here that are knowledgeable enough to develop it, and there's probably not enough of equipment to be able to do it. But individuals like Larry and Usaria are probably pushing the boundaries in that direction, and they're probably getting some resistance as well from the elders in that there is nothing else out there. There's no need for us to be going, outside of this. We're safe here. We're away from all of the persecution that we escaped years ago and so forth. So, there's no sense in us going out there, because if we go out there, then we're just going to attract attention here. And Fern, you said, why are we so different?
Yes.
It's simply because the initial settlers had come from so many different places.
Okay.
And with the intermarriages that occurred, you're merging many different cultures and many different racial profiles and stuff like that. So everybody is different. And because everybody's different, they're all the same. And I think people are more accepting of everybody within the community because everybody sort of has a little bit of a different background.
God.
Is there only one official language, or is other languages spoken?
It's probably some sort of, what do they call it in Star Wars? Is common? Is that right?
I think. Oh, do they ever say? Or basic?
Basic, yeah.
Commons D&D.
Commons D&D, right. It's something of that sort, but essentially it's English. There may be some little idiosyncrasies.
Can you just have some random shopper guy who's from the planet Captain Marvel where they sing everything?
Where they sing everything? But that will come into play, and I'll be able to address that a little bit more directly once we get a little bit further into it.
And so I'm assuming they don't teach us anything about the homeworlds that people came from. They just say they're bad. Let's move on. Or do they
Yeah.
teach us anything? Okay.
No, not really. Yeah. I mean, there may be little bits of snippets of, who the race was and potentially why they left, but there's very little information as far as like the true names of the planets that they came from or anything like that. Yeah. A lot of that is just guarded, and most people have just come to accept that, this is just our life here.
Is there any boogeyman like Thanos or something? Like 'cause sometimes these isolated ones have a boogeyman kind of thing. Like don't go out there or this will happen.
Yeah. Now the planet itself, the wildlife that's on the planet can be very dangerous, and that's where if there is any violence, typically it is coming from the wild outside. There are brave souls that will go out and do some hunting and so forth, and the Blindfather is one of those. And he doesn't do it as far as part of his trade, but he does it to keep his wits sharp, and he has taught several members of the family, the process of going out on a hunt and skinning an animal and all of that sort of stuff. So again, the survivalist in him is, kind of still at 100 and some odd years old, still, forcing him to go out and do that. And he's in good shape for 100 and something.
So he's getting all these wives.
Right? Yeah. But I think now that we kind of have the family structure put together, it sounds like he probably had two wives.
Yeah, it sounds like just two wives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is his second wife still alive?
Nope, gone as well. Mm-hmm. The first wife died when Usario was just a baby. So she barely got to know her mother and probably has no distinct recollection of her. I mean, you see her clearly, I think, in your dreams, so you know what she looks like, but it's not so much a memory as it is just a feeling, and then Lopes, his mom would have probably been around for a while, and maybe had only passed within the last maybe 10 to 15 years, maybe. So she had been around for a while.
So I barely remember my grandmother.
Right.
Or
yeah.
if at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I guess the only other thing that I probably need you guys to kind of think about between now and when we actually get started with this, and I don't have that date in front of me, but it's on the Facebook page, is kind of think about what your role on the farm is. What are your chores? What is some of the stuff that you do?
What kind of farm do we have?
It's both agriculture and livestock. There are two different types of animals that you raise. One of them is actually a riding animal. And I've got a name for it somewhere, but it's in all my mess of notes around here. And then the other one is essentially like a cattle of some sort that is milked, and that's part of the trade that you guys have is providing the milk to the community. And then the agriculture is just fields of wheat and corn and whatever translates as that on this particular planet, but like vegetable type stuff probably.
But you need somebody to keep the books, right?
Yeah, somebody's got to keep the books. That's you. All right. All right. So Tony, do you want me to kind of, based on what we kind of talked about, just kind of start plugging some stuff in for you?
Yeah, you don't mind, then I'll play with it here before we get back together. And
Yeah, that's cool. And I'll kind of throw something together then for you, and then over the next couple of weeks I'll get in touch with you and we can do a quick Zoom and then tweak them a little bit.
Sure. Oh, by the way, while we were doing this, I took a vinyl delivery from my sister, and I got the Chris Tyner specials like on top.
Oh, look at that! Nice.
Yeah, she's like, I've got my next door neighbor had a bunch of vinyl. Do you want it? I'm like,
oh my
yeah.
God!
She's like,
Wow.
okay, I'm gonna drop it by now. So
those things look brand new.
Yeah, the Queen's still, still in the plastic. I bet you it hasn't been played much at all.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's pristine.
Oh man, look at that.
Yep.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yay.
Cool. All right. Well,
would you expect 2 weeks from now that that'll be just like the kickoff, that'll be our first session, or is there any kind of preamble before
No, actually, let me go back because I forgot you're not on the Facebook. So give me. I think I gotta completely reboot my.
I don't have Facebook
thing. Does somebody have that up by chance? Reboot.
Yeah,
all
I got
that?
it.
You got
it. February 13th. So those are 27th. We're at Wrap Up Get Charlotte. So Marvel Galaxies is March 12th.
Okay, yeah. So we have plenty of time between now and then. But since we had this time, and I'm in the process of kind of writing some of the stuff, I wanted to kind of get a better feel for the characters before I got too far into it.
Got it.
So that helps me to do this tonight, and then so it'll be March then by the time we actually really get into it and jump into the game itself. So.
All right, that sounds good. Would you anticipate needing to get together again if you're hey, it's been a while, I know we're going to be starting in March, let's get together and kind of refresh some things, or things are more solidified? Would you expect a more before the game starts, let's get together one more time? Is that something that you think might happen?
Other than maybe just potentially touching base individually with you guys, I don't know that I'll do a full big Zoom.
Sweet. Cool. Sounds good.
Is that cool?
In that case, I love you all, and I'll see you in March.
Right on. See you in a while. All right, guys. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it. That helps me immensely to kind of continue planning. So I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about this. There's some real cool stuff I think that's going to happen. So I'm glad to have you guys all on board.
Yeah.
And
cool.
Tony, great to see you, buddy. I'm glad you jumped on.
Nice to see everybody.
All right. I'll see you guys later on.
Bye.
All right. Good
See
night.
ya.